Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday. It's October 21st. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And it was all uphill today. We had this little correction, which is generally the center of the pattern, and we had a second leg up, and we didn't get nearly a measured leg or anything, but you can see there was a two-tiered channel. We kind of broke out right here, but then we had another little spike and channel up, and then we were in the brown channel. We had a break, a couple of legs up, and it just kind of continued to meander on up. It really was just kind of a weak uptrend today. So not a lot of trades today, so this won't last long today. But since it is going to probably be a short chart lesson with not many trades, I did want to share a couple of things with you. I got an email. I think this came. Um, I think this came in. Let me see. Oh, this came in on Friday, so late Friday evening. Or no, this actually came in Friday morning. So, but I didn't do a chart lesson since then. So, but anyway, it's a real short and sweet. I know a lot of you like to hear, success stories, and this one's not. I mean, it's real. Like I said, it's short and sweet, but it's to the point. It just says, "Hey Mac, I blew my first two accounts last year, but I'm finally profitable after purchasing your system and following your chart lessons every evening. So thanks a million." And that's all he said, really. But he sent me a picture here of one of his trades, and he's got a nice profit on that. But the other thing I wanted to share with you, and I want to be careful how I say this. I never call any names or anything, and I'm not saying this to um, give this to give this trader a hard time or anything. Although he probably deserves it, I'm not doing it for that reason. Um, but I wanted to share something I sent to him. And I've talked about this before. Most of you have heard me talk about this, but so much of what we do is is really mental, and so um, you have to you have to remember that a lot of what we do is mental. And I sent him something, and I wanted to share that with y'all. Let me find it real quick. Okay, here it is. Basically, what I sent him, and this is something I've tried. I'd probably like to post this somewhere permanently, but I'll just read this to you. What I read to him. It basically, what you believe either empowers you or it limits you. Empowering beliefs pull your performance up. Limiting beliefs pull your performance down. This is especially true under competitive pressure or in response to challenging situations. I don't know anything more challenging than learning to trade. So, literally, what you believe affects you so much in trading. So, if you come into this thinking you're going to fail, guess what? You're going to fail. And this is difficult. It's really not that difficult, but it's time consuming because of what all's involved. And I've told this trader multiple times, the only way you're ever going to be successful as a day trader is to learn to understand the language of the chart. The chart tells you something. You can learn to predict short term where the market's heading and what it's doing. And this trader just insists that I'm lying about that I've got some couple of little secret trades that I'm really using, and I'm making all the rest of it up. And I, it gets so frustrating that why somebody would think I would go to all that trouble. If I had two or three little secret things that worked, I'd share those with you. I mean, I, I feel like I'm talking to him, and I'm really just talking to all of you. So if I sound frustrated, it's because I am. But this is a great learning example. You have to believe in this. If you don't believe in what we're doing here, you're wasting your time. I mean, I'll read that to you again in just a minute because it's 100% true. So much of this is mental, and if you don't believe it works right out of the gate, why even waste your time with it? I mean, that's my, maybe he only came in to try to prove to me that it doesn't work. I mean, that's what it almost feels like. But I mean, he spent so much time at. I mean, and literally, the guy sends me 10 emails a day. I probably spent more time with him than and this has been going on for weeks. And suddenly he tells me it's not for him. That it doesn't. It can't be true. It doesn't work. And I mean, he's only been at this for maybe 30 days or so. You're not going to learn to trade in 30 days. I'm sorry. if you believe that it can be done otherwise, please show it to me when you figure it out. But you know, you've heard, most of you have probably heard me say this before. Um, you'll think you've got this several times, even when you haven't. But one day that light, something clicks, and it's just like a little snap of the finger, and something clicks, and suddenly it all makes perfect sense. And once you get it, you'll understand everything I'm saying right now. But until then, you'll think you've got it, you'll think you understand it, you think you know what you're doing, and you won't. And everybody that makes it goes through that, and they tell me that. I know exactly what you meant now. It all makes perfect sense, but I couldn't get it at the time. And so it's just hard to make people understand what it really takes to be successful at that. But number one is you got to believe. And I'm going to read that to you again. What you believe either empowers you or it limits you. Don't let your mind limit you. That's basically what I'm trying to tell you. Empowering beliefs pull your performance up. Limiting beliefs pull your performance down. This is really true under competitive pressure or in response to a challenging situation. And nothing is more challenging than trading. So you got to believe that you can do this or you'll never do it. If you come into this thinking that like 90% of the traders do, I'm going to try this a while, hopefully I can make it, and if I don't in a couple of months I failed, I'm going to move on. Most people come in thinking that, and that's why they fail. And you really cannot learn this quickly because there's just too many scenarios. A lot of it's based on experience. First, you got to know what to look for and how to read the chart. And that's basically what the manual and what we talk about here when I go over these trades. That's basically what that portion of this is doing. It's helping you learn to see it after the fact. And if you do this enough and you study your charts at the end of every day and you start to finally understand what prices are doing, eventually you can start to see it in real time. It may only be one or two trades here or one or two reversal points in the beginning, but eventually you'll start to see it a little bit at a time. And then the more you do this, you'll get better and better and better. And that's the key to this. It's just repetition, a lot of repetition, a lot of just watching chart prices print to a chart. And what the market will do is you might get weeks where it goes sideways or little weak trends like this up or little weak trends down, and you get used to that. And then all of a sudden, boom, it'll get real volatile and you get these huge days up and down and quick reversals. And then you kind of get used to that, and then it'll slow down. It'll get in tight ranges like this for, 4 or 5 points for days, or it just takes months. It really takes probably a year or so, or maybe even a couple of years to start seeing every scenario. And that's one reason why it takes a long time, because the market will lull you to sleep and then change on you. And it's great at doing that. So keep that in mind. But yeah, really the main point of this was you got to believe in this. And when the trader this guy sent me that last email and just said that, he thinks that I'm lying about what I do every day and that I trade some other way and teach this. After all the time I spent with him, he's basically you're just calling me a liar by doing that. Why waste your time? Just go do whatever works. That's all I know to tell you. But one thing, if you don't learn anything else from me, and I told him the exact same thing, if you never learn anything else from me, from trading, make sure you understand this one thing, and that is the only way to consistently make money as a trader is to learn to read this chart. This chart speaks a language. It talks to you every day. And if you learn to read this chart, you can find your own little setups that work. You can find your own little entry techniques. We're not pattern traders, and this guy is just hell-bent on looking for patterns. We talked about second entries, and he showed me a bunch of them that didn't work. Well, of course, there's second entries all over this chart. You got to know where to look for the second entries and when to enter them. Then we talked about higher lows and lower highs. Then he was hell-bent every day to try to find trades on lower highs and higher lows. But they're all over this chart too. You got to know where to look for them at and understand what the prices are doing. And if you can't do that, you can't trade with patterns because too many of them fail. The whole idea is to understand the chart and what it's telling you and understand where to enter. Everything happens at these important support and resistance levels. This trend line, look where there's not many big moves today, but look where every one of them started. There's your, here's all your moves right off this key entry point. Even once it broke a little bit, that's where the moves continue to happen. Look where these big moves happen. This big move happened off this key entry point that you could have got on this first two swings, and it comes back and confirms it. The smart traders see it and look at it go. And then the next big one, now you get a break, but still the last one is that last push up to a new high, and then it's going the other way. And look where this big move started off this trend line. There's your reversal pattern, and then you get a big move down back to this original trend line. And then that's where this whole move started right here, down around this trend line. That's where things happen. You'll get some moves occasionally off the EMA. You'll get some off of this upper trend channel line. This really originated up here off this upper trend channel line, this big move down. You made the high. You couldn't get back up there, but this particular short-term brown trend line played out, and then you got the big move down. That's the gist of it, but it takes a long time to put that all together where you can do this consistently every day without losing very much. And you can't pick up a couple of patterns based on what's in our manual and expect to be trading profitable in a few weeks or even a few months. It just doesn't work like that. You got to learn to understand what this chart is telling you. Once we started making this next leg up right here, you had to assume we were trying to make a new high at a very least. But look for another possible trend in here, because a lot of times this is the center of the pattern for the day. And you're going to start another trend up, and I'd be looking for a measured leg. We never got it, but we continue to trade up almost right into the close. But notice how this brown channel is working up. You get a close, you got two legs up, you pushed up a little higher, and you just went sideways. It couldn't sell off today, but it was not a very strong trend, but it was definitely all up. And this was the center point of your trend. And from here, once you start going higher, just look for the setups. And I'll explain to you the ones, there's not many today, but I'll explain to you the ones that are there and why I liked them. And the other thing is, not every tick chart is exactly the same. You should have a similar number of bars and similar patterns. Well, this guy's trading on, I think he said TradeStation or something. Well, your TradeStation doesn't work the same way. So you might get a little bit different chart, but when he sends me his chart, he's basically got the same setups. Yeah, some of them look better on my chart, but some of them look better on his chart. That doesn't mean anything. I could take his chart and trade it just like I trade mine and do the same thing I do on my chart every day. I may not take the same trades, but out of the 7 or 8 average that we get every day, I'll find 2 or 3 that I like and I'll take them. It's not rocket science. There's no holy grail. The holy grail is learning to understand what prices are doing and listen to them. This chart speaks a language. And that's the key to understanding it. And everybody doesn't always get that. They think we're pattern traders. Yeah, we're looking for patterns, but they're only to fine tune your entry. The support, the key entry points, which is important support and resistance areas, those are where what causes the setup. That's where we're looking for the setups. And then you use the pattern to fine tune your entry. And it's really that simple. It takes a long time to learn that, though. So anyway, I didn't mean to get on get on my soapbox today, but man, it's just so frustrating when somebody calls you a liar. And it's not the first time. He's done it over and over. Tries to tell me I'm wrong. I'll point out a trade, tell him I took a trade, and he'll say I'm wrong. I mean, how you ever going to learn if you don't trust your teacher? You're wasting your time, because I mean, your teacher's either right or wrong, and if they're wrong, then they're not a very good teacher. And he tells me I'm wrong consistently, but I'm right, and it just gets frustrating. And I'm not saying this. He's probably not even listening to the video. I don't think he ever watched them, probably, because I would ask him about it and he couldn't answer questions. I mean, the only way to learn this is you just about have to watch the video and look at my trades and compare them to yours and look at my chart and see what I saw. Am I the be all end all? No. But this is how you learn, by studying your chart. That's why I started doing this in the beginning. Let me tell you this, for those of you who hadn't heard it yet. The reason I started doing these chart lessons every day in the very beginning was for my benefit. If it helped somebody else, that was great. But it was for my benefit. It forces, by putting this on YouTube every day, It forces me at the end of the day to do my chart lesson, to study my chart, to look at my trades, to see to put the trades on there I missed, to see what happened. That's the whole key to this. And if you do this every day, like I said in the beginning, most people can't even find these entries and understand them after the fact. People come in here and say, anybody could put trades on there after the fact. Sure, you could come in here and put these arrows anywhere, but can you explain why what happened there happened? That's the key. Why did that happen there? And if you can figure that out and learn it, that's the first step. And in the beginning, eventually you can see it after the fact. You'll come in here and find all these trades. You still may not see them in real time yet, but just keep working on it, and eventually all of a sudden you'll see a trade one day. And the next day you might see another one. And then in a week or two, you might start to see two or three, and before long you're seeing it all. It's a progression. It's a skill. This is a skill. Anybody tells you this isn't a skill is just misleading you. This is a skill. And like any skill, you have to practice it and hone it every day. It's just like being a professional football player, or baseball player, or soccer player for you Europeans and South Americans. You have to work on that skill and hone it every day. You don't just pick up a ball and be able to, if you're a soccer player, you can't just pick up a ball and dribble it well. You got to learn to be able to you got to practice that every day and hone that skill until you get good at it. Trading is just like that. This is a skill. You can't walk up tomorrow and having never played baseball and step in the batter's box and think you're going to get a hit off a professional baseball pitcher. It's not going. You might get lucky and hit one or two, but I doubt you can even hit the ball. But if you got in there every day, day after day after day, eventually you'll probably start to hit some of them, and you'll start to understand what he's doing and how to hit. And if you got a coach helping you, eventually you might be able to hit a professional baseball pitcher. Maybe you never will. Just like some people never get this. I mean, it's a skill. And some people, I think most people can learn it. Not everybody can do it because of the mental aspect, though. But you can learn this. The key is you got to learn it first, and then you got to see if you've got the mind discipline to do it successfully every day, because there's that little voice that sits on your shoulder, so to speak, or in the back of your head, and he says, take this bad trade right here. And you jump into the worst trade ever. And then you see a perfect trade, and that little voice is like, oh, don't take this trade. You're getting tricked. You're getting tricked. And then you watch it go do exactly what you thought it would do. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully some of this was helpful. I hope I don't feel like I'm beating a dead horse, or I hope I don't sound like I'm mad at anybody, because I'm not mad. But it is frustrating. I do this for my benefit, but I do this to help other people. But for my benefit, it's just because this makes me a better trader every day. I don't make any real money doing this. I don't make anything off of YouTube, basically. It's just time. It's an hour or two out of my day every day, but in the end it makes me money because it makes me a better trader, and that's where I make my money. And there's always some naysayer or somebody that doesn't believe, and that's okay. I don't care whether they believe or not, but if you want to learn this, stick with it, learn what we do, and you'll get better at this. I promise you. All right, let's talk about the trades. I'm sorry, I'm a little frustrated today, but anyway, when I came in 7 o'clock, we were coming right up here, and I know most of y'all hear me say every day I start trading at 7 o'clock. Well, this trader tried to tell me too that my manual says that you start at 8:30, and nowhere does it say that. I did talk about the regular session open at 8:30, and I gave some hypotheticals if you started trading at 8:30 till the 2 o'clock or whatever, but nowhere did I say start at 8:30. I say every day in these videos I start trading at 7 o'clock. And I end at 2. That's what the white part is, from 8:30 to 2, but I actually start trading at 7 if I get here on time, which most days I do. Sometimes I'm late. Sometimes I have some little issue that delays me from getting started at 7, but I try to be at my desk and trading by 7 every morning, just in case there's somebody else that missed that. But anyway, 7 o'clock came right up through here, and you just can't enter on this big move up. It's real tempting to go short here. Unfortunately, you didn't get this line until you got these first two swings here, so you couldn't really, you don't, the only reason I like this is because it's way away from the EMA and it's a big bearish bar and we're probably coming back, but that can be dangerous. So um, you do have this other brown line that you could put on here, but you can see even then we didn't really get up there to it. So you're just kind of shooting in the wind here, and that's never a good idea. And anything, plus you're really looking for longs here, so it would have been nice to get a setup here, but it doesn't. Notice you got this little trend line working down. You get the close outside, you get a move to a new low, and then you get this nice bullish bar right here. I like going long right there. That's a quickie. This is, I did make this one green. Generally, you're better off to wait on a higher low, but you don't always get one. You didn't get one here. And then, of course, you run up here, and you get this little trend working down. And notice how you push through, pull back, and you get that failed second entry long. Now is the time to go short. That's a nice bearish bar. Go short right there. And that was the trade of the morning, really. And you could get a runner off this one. We run down. We actually bounce. This is another one that's very tempting. And you could have taken this one. It would have worked. But again, I think it's a little, with that, you got your break and new low. I didn't mark it. But if you drew this trend line and drug it down, it does set up perfectly. And you can see I just copied that line off the top, drug it down. And a lot of times we will find our trade off the opposite side like that. So that's where I got that trend line. And it would have worked, but notice how we push lower again. You want to wait on your reversal. And this is not a perfect reversal. Notice we did push through the EMA a little bit, but we never closed above it. But notice that low. You get a first entry short, you get a second entry short, and you get a big bullish bar here. That one's worth trying to risk because a lot of times if you catch this early, you can get a runner on it. In this case, it was good for a scalp, not much more. But notice how we came back again. And this is basically a double bottom. So you get a first entry, second entry, and it bounces there. And there is support right there, and you get that big bullish bar. I think that's the better place. Now we've closed above. And notice even though there's two swings there, that's like one leg, and then here's your second leg, and then you get a little you get a little two-legged correction. There is a short, on a smaller time frame, there's a hidden second entry there, and you really have got a little resistance there, but this doesn't look like a range yet at this point. When it bounced here again, I drew that, and of course I already had that line there, but I think that one's worth risking at that point if you move this all the way over to the hard right side. I mean, it looks like we're failing to the low side and going to go higher. There is some resistance there. But I like that reverse. That looks more like your reversal. And if you can see these other two legs up here, that's probably worth. I really thought we'd take off there. We didn't. It still works. Comes back, and now you get a double test, but that bar is just too bearish. We do push up and get a little breakout pullback, but I don't trust those. That's probably the least. Those trades probably fail more than anything, those breakout pullbacks, so I don't like going there. But notice that you made another double bottom, so you get a first entry, second entry. Again, I didn't like that because now you've got this trend line. If you drag it up here, you're going to be going long right into it. So you really don't want to go long there, even though it looks like a failed second entry long, and you can see it would have stopped you out. But now you get a little double test. You made that low, you test it once, you test it twice. You get a nice bullish bar. The only catch here is you got to have enough room to get out. If you don't, by putting a buy stop one tick above it, let it tick higher and drop a limit order back enough to make sure you got room to get out. It wouldn't have mattered here. You got a scalp regardless. But always keep that in mind because you got a double top here and a double bottom here. That's looking like a range. Sure, the upside trend, the bias is to the upside. So if you are going to get a failed breakout, it may be on either side first, but when you get a successful one, you'll probably get it to the upside. And you see that's what happened here because we traded up into this. The bias is up. So coming back down, you got this little small bar up here, but it's an inside bar, not worth risking. You come back down. Now you get another test and another bullish bar. again, you could mark this one blue if you got enough room to get out. On mine, it would have been a 4-tick failure, so I marked it green. But the key would be to let it break higher, drop a limit order, maybe a tick back, or whatever it took to get out of there, and use that. Same thing coming back down here. This is an obvious range now. Look how many times you've tested that. Big bearish bar. Just make sure you got room to get out. Here, it wouldn't have mattered, but you don't know that it won't bounce right here again, and you may not get that little push through. So, and of course, now you get a little failed break lower, but signal bar is terrible. You get a higher low here, but now you're right back into that resistance. We ain't even had a failed breakout really yet. Too risky. And it runs up here and it fails out the upper side. I like this trade here. It's a second entry short. Notice that new low. First entry. There's a second entry, relatively bearish bar, a long way. Look how close we haven't gotten away from the EMA hardly any at all today. That's going to come back to the EMA at a minimum. It ends up going much further. So that would have been, you could have probably got you might have got a runner on that one. I'm not sure if that came back. Maybe not. That was a pretty good trade. And then notice we had the second entry coming down. Now we got a second entry going up. Look at that high. First entry, you pull back second entry. Look how bullish that bar is. You do have a close outside your brown line, but a lot of times you get two legs up, and there's your trade of the afternoon right there. You definitely get a runner on that. Look at it go. And that takes you in the 2 o'clock hour. So there were not a lot of trades today. It's kind of a weak uptrend, but everything's still, what we're doing here later is we're moving up, going sideways. We move up a little bit, go sideways. We actually pull back here and we move up and go sideways. We move up and go sideways. You'll see that on weekdays a lot. It's just the way the market does. But anyway, that's about it for today. Again, it's just it's in the big picture, it's two legs up. And I know I spent probably the first 15 minutes just yakking my head off out of frustration, but hopefully there was some helpful stuff in there for each of you. If it wasn't, I apologize. But sometimes maybe you got to listen to me for a change. But this can be a frustrating business. I know it. Trying to learn it is hard. But once you get it, there's nothing better, and it can be done. You just have to do the right things. And the biggest thing you have to understand in closing is that this is not something you're going to do quickly. I don't care what anybody tells you, you can't do this quickly. It takes a while. Yeah, you might get lucky and have a little streak where you have a few wins, but you're going to give it all back until you learn to do this. And the real key is being able to read the chart and then having discipline. Being able to say, hey, I'm wrong. Here's where my stop goes. I don't move it regardless. If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I get stopped out for a very small stop. And that's that. Your stop always goes one tick below your signal bar or one tick above your signal bar if you're going short. One tick below it if you're going long. One tick below it. And the signal bar is always the lowest bar in the swing. Look where these trade. These are always the lowest bars in the swing. Except here when we're sideways, that doesn't really matter as much. Again, the lowest bar in the swing, the highest bar in the swing, the highest bar in that swing. Notice that's the high. Lowest bar in the swing. That's where your safety stop always have to. If you put it anywhere else, you'll probably get stopped out just because the market, just what we call noise in the market. The market just gyrating up and down within a 4 to 6 tick range pretty regularly. So you got to put your stop where it goes or you'll get stopped out on good trades. That's a very important rule. So keep that in mind. But anyway, it's 30 minutes worth. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm ready to get out of here today. It's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.